So Derrick Henry just sent a message and made his intentions very clear on his mindset heading into this matchup with the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the two leading MVP candidates, the cold weather, the right to go to the AFC Championship game, all of that. We also got Rob Gronkowski and Mina Kimes and others with the top sound bites and analysis on this game, as well as a key stat that I dug in, found that you're not going to want to miss, that's going to go a long way in determining this football game, as well as Zach Orr and Todd Monken, the Ravens coordinators, talking about the matchups in this game, practice updates, injury news, and all that and more, man. So welcome in to another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Ravens today. In fact, we probably got more than 5 today, so we'll just give you all the top reports. So at number 1, you got to see that Lamar Jackson on the road this year has been phenomenal. The last time he went to Buffalo in the playoffs, it did not end well for him or the Baltimore Ravens. He ended up leaving the game earlier with a concussion. He had a pick 6. It was just a terrible game. He talked about that yesterday, about how he's a little bit motivated because of that. He started to talk about it, getting fired, and he said, you know what? I'll leave it at that.
I always like to post, like they like to throw that out, that little interception return. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say about that, though.
All right, thank you. At that. So if you don't think Lamar Jackson feels some type of way about this game and all the narratives that he can't get it done in the playoffs and all that, man. But Lamar on the road this year, 23 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's absolutely absurd. In fact, that's actually best all time. And another thing that's best all time is Derrick Henry's numbers in January. 23.6 rushes per game. He averages 143 yards per game in January. Over 6 yards per carry. Absolutely absurd. And 6 total touchdowns. These numbers are good for the best in NFL history. I think Derrick Henry travels well. I think that's one thing you can pack up and bring to your road game is Derrick Henry. I think that'll help out a little bit. But Lamar versus Josh Allen all time, head-to-head. Lamar's actually 3-1 against Josh Allen in the regular season, but it's 0-1 in the playoffs like we were talking about here. So this is everything that you think it's going to be and more. This game's going to be absolutely fantastic. I got all the chips on the table for the Ravens. But talking about Derrick Henry going on the road into Buffalo, he was asked about his mindset. He was asked about the work he does in the offseason. Both of the responses are absolutely priceless. Go ahead and take a listen.
Game, knowing all that's at stake. And
the mindset going to this game?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Want to win. I mean, it's a divisional game. Trying to get to the next round of the AFC Championship. It's a great opponent, a really good team. It's going to be a heavyweight fight.
You could always say every week it's important to establish the run. Do you feel like that's particularly important in this game, and how big of a focus is that?
I mean, we definitely want to be efficient in the run game to help the offense, help the pass game. But we got to practice it and execute it throughout the week to make it happen in the game.
Do you enjoy running in the cold weather? Do you think that's a better?
I've been asked this question 100 times. I don't care if it's cold, hot, rainy, or snow. I got to do my job.
Derrick, how much does all the work you put in during the off-season body maintenance, how much do you think that pays off at this time of year?
I wouldn't do it if it didn't. I would waste my time if it didn't pay off. Make sure I do that just so I'm ready and be able to play, help my team win games.
So on his mindset, he's like, what do you mean? I want to win. I want to go to the AFC Championship. Let's go. He sent a message to the locker room a few weeks ago whenever the Ravens were getting hot, about to go into the playoffs. He said, the last time I've been in the AFC Championship was 5 years ago. Y'all were there last year, and y'all know it's got to be different. Let's go. Like, he sent that message to the locker room. And then, when his response to all the work he does in the offseason, he was asked if it pays off, and he said, I wouldn't do it if it didn't pay off. Derrick Henry is not fooling around right now. I cannot wait. The Ravens were practicing today. They were in their indoor facility, but they had all the doors open, including the big garage doors with fans blowing in the cold air to kind of make it even colder, just in preparation for the elements of the game. I know Buffalo, I think it's supposed to be around 17 degrees, anywhere from 10 to 17. Kickoff time, there's a chance for some wind, some snow, which to me, that it goes advantage Derrick Henry and Baltimore Ravens if any of those other elements get added into the game. That's why you saw, Derrick Henry is historically the best running back in January in NFL history, because it's really hard to tackle this man over and over again in the cold. You add in Lamar Jackson that you have to worry about, that just, gives defenses just hesitancy, just pause for a second, allows Derrick Henry to get a little bit more head of steam, which is, we know, very dangerous for opposing defenses. At number 3, NFL legend Rob Gronkowski. He's got his money on the Ravens getting it done over Kansas City this year. Here's what he had to say.
If you're in like a panic room and you have to answer this question to get out, and it has to be the right answer, you have to say, who wins the AFC? Which one team are you picking?
All right.
Definitive.
The Baltimore Ravens.
Really?
Yeah, I picked them at the beginning of the year, September 4th, 2024. You heard it.
You're
And now
right.
I'm going to stick with them, Kay.
But do you really believe that? I'm really looking for that. Like,
Yeah.
you think they're going to get past the Chiefs?
I think they're finally going to do it with the Baltimore Ravens, with how they played last week versus Steelers, a rival team, in their division. They took care of business. They made them look silly. I think they're going to finally pull it off. Lamar Jackson has to get over that hump, and it's like year 5 of trying to get over that hump for him. He's got to be able to do it, and if this isn't the year, then I don't think he's ever going to do it.
It's fair. I really thought you were going to say Chiefs.
At number 3, we got Mina Kimes and some others talking about the Bills' personnel and them trying to match the Ravens' physicality in the run game. And I did some digging, and I need you guys to see this before I show you the clip. The Bills have several defensive tackles. They got talented defensive tackles, but their defensive linemen are better in pass rushing situations than they are run defense situations. Daquan Jones, one of their starting defensive tackles, has a 73.7 pass rush grade, which is good for 20th out of 219 defensive tackles. So, a top elite percentage there as a pass rushing defensive tackle. But for run defense, drops down to a 50.3 grade. That's 122nd out of 219 defensive tackles. So that's about middle of the pack. And then Ed Oliver, very talented defensive tackle, high draft pick. Better as a pass rusher as well. Check this out. He's got a 79.0 pass rush grade, which is 9th in the NFL out of 219 defensive tackles. That's elite. Great pass rushing defensive tackle. Right there with guys like Justin Madubuike, Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, that type of elite category as a pass rusher. But when it comes to run defense, he drops down to a 45.2 run defense grade, which is 156th out of 219. That is really porous run defense. So both defensive tackles, their 2 starters we talked about so far, not great run defenders compared to pass rushers. Jordan Phillips, one of their depth defensive tackles. So we'll just talk about 3 of their defensive tackles right now. He's got a 62.6 pass rush grade, which is 79th in the NFL out of 219. Drops to 29.6 run defense grade, which is 213th out of 219. So 3 of their main rotating defensive tackles there, not great run defenders. And I'm not just saying this just looking at PFF numbers. You can go look at the tape. And I even heard this from I think it's Cover 2 or Cover 3 podcast. It's a Buffalo Bills-based channel. Excellent work. I was listening to one of their previews the other day, and they were talking about how their defensive tackles, their defensive front has had issues getting displaced this year. Like, just straight up. They said, our guys have gotten displaced, knocked off the football. And the Ravens, with a big physical offensive line, Patrick Ricard, 3 really good tight ends, and Derrick Henry, is not the team you want to face when you have issues getting displaced off the football, which will probably force the Bills to play in a package of defense that they don't feel comfortable and normally play in. They are a base nickel defense, which means they have 5 defensive backs on the field. I think they run dime with 6 defensive backs around 20% of the time. So they like their extra DBs on the field. They like to play too high. That's going to have to change, which is going to make them do something they're not typically comfortable and used to doing. Mina Kimes talked about that especially going against teams that run 6 offensive linemen. The Ravens did that last week against the Steelers quite a bit. Got Josh Jones in there and had a lot of success. And the Bills, even against 6 offensive lineman formations, had their nickel defense with an extra DB on the field still half of that time. Go ahead and take a listen.
I love about this emphasis about the Ravens using multiple extra offensive linemen, Dan, is it cuts to what I think is the core question for this game, which is, can the Ravens play or make the Bills play a way they don't want to play?
Right.
So the Bills have faced 34 snaps this season of teams using 6 offensive line. Over half of the time, they match that with their nickel personnel. If they try to play nickel personnel against the Baltimore Ravens, doing what Dan just said, buddy? Taron Johnson is maybe the best run defending nickel or one of them in football. Taron Johnson ain't gonna stop that. So then the Ravens can do what they did in the last matchup. The first few drives before things got out of hand, they didn't use 6 offensive linemen. They were living in 21, 22 personnel. And then when the Bills put an extra linebacker on the field, they were throwing on them. And I really think that's going to be the case this time. I would not be surprised, Dan, if at one point in this game they come out with 6 offensive linemen and then Lamar Jackson throws the ball. I would be ready for that if I'm Buffalo.
At number 4, Ed Reed weighs in on Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the MVP conversations that have been transpiring for weeks now. And what's sad about this game is whatever quarterback loses. Aaron Rodgers was talking about this. Other guys were talking about this today. Whatever quarterback loses will have had a historically great NFL season, like fantastic football player, brought their team to the divisional round, but then is going to be slandered and said they can't get it done in the playoffs. They fell short. They'll be second best, right? They'll be, just kind of dragged. And it's sad because both quarterbacks are so good, but only one of them is going to walk away with a win. And I'm speaking it right now. It's going to be our guy, Lamar Jackson, man. I think it's his year. I really do. Ed Reed talked about the conversation between Josh Allen and Lamar, but specifically how the only thing that really matters is getting that ring. Here's what he had to say.
Lamar Jackson, MVP, or Josh Allen, MVP? Who do you have?
I got Lamar Jackson. His stats are better, so I can go and say plays and do all that stuff, but for me, it's Lamar.
Yeah.
No question about it. But I'm not the one who's voting. I know how that stuff goes. I don't get caught up in that. My message was for Lamar is like, he knows what it is about at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. He's got MVP, and I know he wouldn't mind having another one, but I also know what the goal is.
Exactly.
The goal always is.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that's the same thing for Josh. Mm-hmm. Nobody really cares about individual accolades, until you really get it in. You're still paying homage to your teammates when you listen to those guys. They're like, I didn't do anything without my team.
At number 5, Zachary Orr, defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. With a slow start to the beginning of the year, everyone was saying, fire him, get rid of him. Now has one of the best defenses in the NFL taking the field over the last 8 weeks or so. A really top-tier unit that's really buckled down against the run and the pass. He's got the best run defense in football right now, according to the numbers. And he talks about the physicality in this game and about how a lot of people just said, well, Josh Allen wants to throw the ball and this and that, but the Bills are a run-heavy team. That's the reason why they just beat Denver last week. Here's what he had to say on the physicality and looking at that Bills offense.
If you talk to any defensive player or coach, the number one thing they're going to say they have to do is to stop the run. Why you want to stop the run? Because you want to get the offense behind the chains. Like if an offense has to consistently play in 2nd, 7+, 3rd and long, it's going to be a good day for the defense more times than not. So we always striving to get teams in those situations. Now we can unleash our pass rush. Now we can unleash certain pressures and certain coverages and certain looks, and you get a chance to make the offense predictable. When they're in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, now you got to play run or pass. So you're not necessarily getting a good get off if they pass the ball. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be key and it's going to be vital. I think you made a good point. Buffalo, everybody thinks it's Josh Allen and they just want to throw the ball. They're one of the top rushing teams in the league, and you saw what they did to Denver. I think last week they won the game because they established the run and they just pounded those guys. So that's the number one thing we could not let happen.
At number 6, we're going outside the normal structure just because we got so much to talk about. Todd Monken, he addressed the media talking about Zay Flowers replacing him. And he also talked about how the only thing that matters between, this great offense all year, the Ravens were so balanced, top 7, 7th in the NFL in passing, 1st in the NFL in rushing. Just a history-making, record-setting type of offense up there with all-time greats. You can look at the greatest show on turf with the Rams. I think we're the only team that the Ravens were behind in yards per play. Really good offense, but he says the only thing that matters is what happens on Sunday night. And the other thing he talked about was the mindset with the 3 Buffalo Bills starters being back in the lineup, and Taron Johnson and their 2 starting linebackers with Matt Milano and TJ Edwards, because they weren't in the first matchup. They're back. He talked about that. Sit back and listen to what Todd Monken had to say. He dropped some good nuggets here.
With each game, you're looking at what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, what tendencies you've created, the personnel that you have to be able to utilize it, because that's the key part of it. How do you utilize all the personnel that you have? Whether it's your tight ends, your backs, your receivers, how do you get them in the game? They all have an elite trait somewhere. They wouldn't be in the NFL. How can we utilize that and give us an opportunity to move the ball and score points?
Todd, when you go into a game knowing you're not going to have a guy as integral as Zay Flowers is, I'm not saying that's going to be the case this week, but it was the case last week. What's the thought process? Is it more this is how our palette of plays might change, or is it more these are the guys that might piecemeal be able to replace the things that he does?
I think the latter. How are we going to move our pieces around to give us the best chance to score? That's what we're paid to do, irrespective of who takes the field. Hopefully Zay will be able to go. But if not, we got a lot of really good players. We really do. We're fortunate. We have a lot of really good players, and we anticipate them playing well. You're always working to win the last one. That's just the way it is. All the stats, all the compliments, where you're at, running the ball, throwing it, all that matters is Sunday night, and what we put out there Sunday night.
How much do Milano, Johnson, Bernard matter for Buffalo and the way that they want to play defense?
No, they're good football players. Now the guys that they had playing are professional players as well, and that's part of being in the NFL. Everybody goes through injuries, and other guys have to step up, and you got to do a great job as a staff to utilize the pieces that you have. There's a reason they're starters, and I'm sure they're excited to have those guys back. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with us. Their structure is going to stay the same of how they're going to play it. And we're excited to get after it Sunday night.
By the way, Todd Monken had an interview to become the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. He also is being interviewed for the Chicago Bears head coaching position. I know a lot of fans concerned about that being a distraction and whatnot. Todd Monken is so locked in on the Bills right now. He said he did the preparation in the offseason and that he's just grateful. He loves his job here with the Ravens. He talked about that. I wouldn't put too much stock into that. It's the NFL's policy. There's not really a better system for that, so don't stress about it too much. Todd Monken, trust me, is locked in on the Buffalo Bills. At number 7, Baltimore Ravens pulling out the icy whites, going on the road to Buffalo. Now, the Ravens have worn the icy whites, all white, twice this year. First time was against Kansas City on the road, week 1. We know how that ended. Isaiah Likely toe didn't get down. Disappointing loss. The other one was on the road against the Chargers, where the Ravens won in convincing fashion. So Derrick Henry had a big game in that one as well, if you guys can remember. At number 8, I'm surprised by the picks here. I thought a lot of people would go Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, but a lot of guys, a lot of analysts going Baltimore Ravens. If you take a look at this graphic, everyone except for 2 of the 10 analysts here from NFL Network are going with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are also favored by the sports betting books and all that stuff. So a lot of people expecting the Ravens being able to get it done. And the Buffalo Bills are an incredible team. So that says a lot about what they think about our Baltimore Ravens. I think having big number 22 and Lamar with a historically good season, and then the coaching staff, the way they got these boys locked in, is kind of giving the nod to the Ravens as far as analysts favoring Baltimore in this matchup. So that was a lot. We talked about a lot tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you did, if you got any value out of today's content. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you got that subscribe and notification bell on so you're notified anytime we upload so you don't miss any Ravens news or content. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
Ray, when he wasn't looking, he ran me over.